All right. Good afternoon, Katia. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Uncover with Dale. I want to introduce you to Lori, my co-host today. She's going to be helping us navigate this podcast today. So we'll just, be relaxed and have a fun time today. So,
Okay, thank
uh,
you.
yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I know you're busy. Before we dive into your work with the program, helping veterans with their mental health and more, would you mind kind of just giving us a little bit of background on your military career? You were in the Army, correct?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was. So I went to the University of Missouri. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, so went to Mizzou for college. Did the ROTC program there. So I graduated and commissioned in May of 2020. So we were like the first COVID class. It was a very odd time.
Mhm.
Um, but graduating commissioned then, and then my where I was stationed at was in North Carolina at Fort Bragg. So I went down to Texas, did my Army training called Bullock there, and then went to airborne school, and then reported up to Fort Bragg. So I was there for 4 years, just under 4 years before I moved to Chicago. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I primarily spent my time there in 1st Brigade, but worked a little bit up at division as well. We were a part of the IRF deployment, Immediate Response Force for the withdrawal of Afghanistan. So we were on a no-dose deployment for that and had a great time at Fort Bragg in general. I really, really loved my time there. I got really lucky with the leaders that I had and the soldiers and NCOs that I had. So I could talk about it for hours.
Oh, I love it.
I really, really did love my time there. I knew no one when I got out there, so I had to build a life and build my support system, and I did it. And so, yeah, I think very fondly of my military time, but served in the 82nd, and that was for 4 years, and then I got out after that. So,
That's awesome. Now, did you come from a military background? Your family did anyone else serve?
yeah, kind of. Yeah, the answer is yes. It wasn't something though within my own family that was like super heavily, not encouraged, I guess. It was just like my mom was in the Army Nurse Corps. Two of my uncles one was in the Navy, one was also in the Army. So it was like supported, but not like a expectation, I guess is a better way to put that. And then I'm the baby of my family, and my two of my older brothers decided to go. One went active duty Air Force, and then one went Army Reserves as a combat medic. Both of them enlisted, so neither one of them went to college right after high school. I knew, though, I'm very type A, so I knew that is something that I wanted to do. And I knew that my mom had talked so highly of her time while she was in the Army. And, so it always been something in the back of my mind. And then when you look at colleges and the price tag and all these things, I was like, well, okay, maybe this plan B kind of moves up to my plan A, because I know that I really want to go to college. All of my family has had pretty good experiences of their time in the military, regardless of branch. So maybe I'll give it a go and see how it pans out for me. And I've been blessed. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome. It's cool. It sounds like you kind of just followed into your family's footsteps, and
yeah, yeah.
seems like you're an adventurer. Kind of
Yeah,
wanted
my
to try
mom and I were
something
the only ones on the officer side of it, so that was a little unique for me compared to a lot of them.
different.
But regardless, it was so well supported, and my family's great. So
That's cool. Did you have any trouble transitioning out? I know some veterans, they're lacking information, resources, especially if you were injured in service or anything like
yeah, um, great question. I think I like kind of somewhere in the middle. I think you're never really taught how to get out of the military, if we're being honest, right? Because the people that
that.
have done it aren't in anymore, and you're not consistently around them. And so there was some junctures that came that I was like, what do I do now? Like, and even when I was still in and I was in that process of getting out, I will say that they do their best to try and put you in classes and provide you resources and doing all those things, but sometimes it's like drinking from a water hose, or and you hear all these things, but then you're not at the point where you can apply them. So then all of a sudden, when you're on the end of it and you're on the outside, you're like, wait, what? Like, I remember hearing something about that.
Something,
I'm
yeah.
not really sure. And I Yeah. So yes, I know that there are resources out there, but to the extent of like how much of it do I remember, how much of it do I use today, that's a whole other, different story. But
Mhm.
yeah, does that kind of answer the question, I
Yeah,
guess?
yeah, 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 definitely. I mean, it's different for each service person. I didn't really know a lot getting out. I had some injuries, here
Yeah.
and there, and I didn't really qualify for the GI Bill. So
Mm.
I learned later about voc rehab. Going back
Hmm.
into training for that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were able to navigate it and get the resources.
Yeah, and there's still things that even today I did get pretty sick while I was in the army actually, and so navigating that process, post diagnosis into being out. Not a lot of my friends or my peers that I had in the army are either still in or they don't have those issues, and so trying to navigate the VA and doing all of that stuff is a very different thing that I'm dealing with compared to a lot of my peers, I guess. So, but that being said, the VA that I go to in Chicago is pretty great. If I'm being honest, I've had a very good experience there. So I feel like when I don't know exactly what to do, I have some people that I can go to ask. And obviously my job, I'm surrounded by a lot of veterans who,
Veterans, yeah.
you know, have been injured, who have done all these things that I can ask for support as well. So I'm very lucky in the position that I am, especially within this job compared to a lot of people. So I have the resources and the people if I ever need them, which is a blessing.
Which is a blessing. You get the inside scoop.
Yeah, literally. That's what it feels like.
Cool. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the Road Home program. It's based in Chicago, Illinois. It's a nonprofit. How did you get started in that? Did it kind of?
So I post leaving college, or I was in North Carolina while I was in the army. My partner and I met at school. So we had done long distance the whole time. He's from one of the suburbs here in Chicago. And so he's lived in the city the whole time. And when I was getting out, I was just like, I knew the job hunt was going to be hard. But I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, worst case scenario, I can get a job. Like, I'll just get a job. Even if I'm not, if it's not my favorite thing I've ever done, because again, I had such a great time in the military and it filled my cup so much. It just wasn't something that was going to be in my life forever. It was a chapter for sure for me. I knew that filled my cup so much that it was going to be a challenge for me to find something that filled my cup in that same way. And so I knew that post North Carolina, I was going to move up here. And I was like, well, let me just, start looking. And my expectations were very low. I was a medical service corps officer. I don't know if I mentioned that at all. So I worked in healthcare. I, was basically the administrative part of Army medicine in a very, very watered down version of that. And so I was kind of interested in, some administrative stuff within hospitals. So I was looking around at different, healthcare entities within Chicago, and where I work, Rush, it's what we as the Road Home program are attached to. They are huge. And so I was looking at different jobs there, and it was a very humbling experience to enter into the job hunt post Army. And I think that people who get out, regardless of your rank or position or what you did in the military, relate so heavily to that, where it's like, I, as a 22-year-old right out of college, was immediately responsible for 42 people directly, was responsible for millions of dollars worth of medical equipment.
Ooh,
And
yikes.
so it's like, I know what I'm capable of. I know the level of leadership, and that only grew from then on. And the experiences that I had and the things that, the Army for me, but the military in general, the situations that you're in, your scope is so wide compared to, an average, non-military person, just because of what the military put, it's what it is.
Right.
So like, I know that I'm capable to do these jobs. I do have my bachelor's. That's the highest level of education that I have, but I'm like, I'm applying for all these jobs and I'm just getting closed door after closed door after closed door, or no. And I was like, why? Like, I know that I can do this. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
The civilian sector doesn't know how to
Yeah.
translate your
Correct.
military
Exactly.
experience.
No, and I'm so blessed to have the network that I made. I fought really hard to get the network and the connections that I did have in North Carolina. But I would go to my mentors and some of my, like, my friends that I met there, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what do I need to shift? What do I need to pivot to like, I know that it probably won't fill my cup the exact same way, but I know that working in healthcare does fill a certain part of me that makes me happy.
Mhm.
And I kept getting no after no after no. And so I go to my old mentor he was my first company commander actually in the Army. And I am just like, yeah, like I found this job, and at this point I'm like desperate, right? I'm on LinkedIn and I'm looking at the people who work at the Rush, right? The Rush University Medical Center. And I'm going into there, and I'm going into who are veterans within Rush, and I'm just like sending Hail Mary after Hail Mary. And I'm like, this is who I am. This is what I did in the Army. I would like to do something similar, but I'm really open to whatever, right?
Right.
So I'm doing that. And like, I think I maybe sent out for Rush alone, like 25 messages, and I only got responses from 2 of them.
Oh my goodness.
And so one of them was one of my now coworkers, and he was like, hey, that's super cool. Like, you sound like someone who would be, a really good fit for our team. I don't know if there's any opportunities right now or in the future, but here's my boss's LinkedIn or his name. If you want to go look at him on LinkedIn, like just message him. Like, why not? Right. And so I'm like, okay. So I follow this guy, the boss, and I'm like, hey, you send him a message and send it out and just let it happen. And he's like, you know what? We don't have anything available right now, but in a couple weeks, look back on our page, because I had read their page about what this guy that I originally reached out to. And I'm like, I have to work here. Like, I have to work here. Like, you want to talk about, I want to work in the military community, being in the medical field, like, fills my cup up. Being able to potentially give back to veterans and service members and their families. I'm like, oh my God. But I'm so discouraged at this point, because I'm like, I've got no's after no's after no's. And so I'm talking to one of my mentors, and he's like, oh my gosh, by the way, I saw that you connected with this guy on LinkedIn. He and I went to school together. I know that he lives in Chicago, and he's like a super big advocate for the veteran community and population within Chicago. Would you want me to reach out to him? And he says the person's name. And I was like, that is the man that would hire me. That is the guy who you went to school with way back in the day. Like, please, yes. Like, reach out to him. Tell him how great I am. I promise. Like, all these things. And so,
I hear that story so much. I'm not to interrupt you, but I hear it so much. Veterans who are overqualified from a lot of these jobs, and they get no response. Army or Navy medics, Army medics. And I'm like, these are the people who should be in our hospitals.
100%. And so, so it just was one of those, you hear all the time, it's such a small world. You hear it all the time. The Army is such a small world, but man, it is just time after time. It is proven itself that statement is so true. And so, long story short, my old company commander reached out to my now boss and was like, hey, I know this girl. She worked with me when she was as a second lieutenant. It was my first job in the Army. And he was like, she was great then. I know she's gotten even better. And so I had to go through the whole application process still, was like neck and neck with a couple people, and ended up getting the job. And at first I was just like, oh my God, thank God. Like, I got a job. This is so great.
Right.
My first like big, corporate America job.
Right.
And I knew, through doing my research, and the interview process was intense. It was a lot, and rightly so. It's a very good job, but it takes the right person to do it, as I've now, really realized through what we do. But I thought this program was great, reading about it online, and then getting here and seeing the great work that we do, and seeing my coworkers and all the staff that we have, and how like passionate and almost like desperate we are to reach more veterans and to get more service members into our door is just crazy. So that's a very long-winded way to say, though, like, I had no idea what I would do, post Army, and I had all these expectations of what type of job that I wanted, and then I kept getting no's, and I was like, okay, I'll just settle for something. And then I just shot a Hail Mary out to just a veteran working at one of the hospitals I was, interested at, and then it, snowballed into this
connection.
It is. And so many people told me that, like, truthfully, so many people were like, you can apply for these jobs, but you got to get a network in. Like, you got to go to these events. You got to go and just put your name out there, no matter how uncomfortable it is, or no matter how overqualified or underqualified, because sometimes organizations really do value your military experience, and they do put that, and value that. And so
especially when you just get out, you know. I think a
Right.
lot of veterans, including myself, we kind of become lone wolves and we're like, okay, I don't have a community around me anymore like I did in the military.
Yep.
So now that I'm out, it's kind of like you feel isolated. You know, you
Yeah.
have to kind of try to rebuild that community and network, and it
Yeah.
can be
And
scary. It can be really
it's so nerve-wracking. I, you know, was very fortunate that I was moving into a city and a town and a home with my partner. We were dating at the time. Now we're engaged, but
oh,
like,
congratulations.
thanks. I'm so excited. Um, but we, if I think about people who don't have that support system or that like that solidity of I have a home to move here to. I have a person that I can lean on and rely on, and he's been here for 4 years, and so he has this entire network of friends just through Chicago that he's met here. And if I didn't have that, that transition would have been
Much
night
harder.
and day different,
Yeah.
night and day different. And I think about the people who want, I guess I'll speak for myself in North Carolina, but who want to get out of North Carolina because they want to go back, maybe back home or somewhere else. It's like, I can't even comprehend how they could get their, foot underneath of themselves to really go. So it's challenging. It's challenging. It's nerve-wracking. It's so scary.
I think that's one of the biggest complaints I hear is the transition coming out of the
Mhm.
military and going into public life. I am not a veteran. I'm a veteran advocate, but I work with veterans all over. So that is one of the bigger things that we continuously hear. But tell us a little bit about what your organization does and
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
next.
And I'm gonna try to pull it up here while you guys while we're
Okay.
talking here.
Yeah, so the
Where
Road
we at?
program, I see it look kind of scrolling on the bottom here,
Yep.
but we
Yeah.
are a nonprofit based out of Chicago, Illinois, in the medical district here. And we do mental health care for veterans, service members. So that's National Guard, active duty, or reserves, and their families, which really does set us apart from a lot of other organizations. And we do it all at no cost, which is phenomenal. So I'll try and do like the down and dirty version as much as possible, but we do offer services in person and virtually. So for the in-person stuff, we fly people, drive people, however means of transportation from all of the world. We've had people from Puerto Rico, from Alaska, Hawaii, from Germany. No matter where you are at in the world, if you apply and refer into our program and want to get care here, and you do the intake process and all these things, we will get you to Chicago. Like, we will do that. So we fly people in from all over. Yep, there it is. That's our website.
It's working.
So we fly people in from all over, and we do have two different parts of what we offer, right? So we have an outpatient program for Illinois and Indiana residents. So if you live in those two states, you can do our regular outpatient. That's completely customizable to whatever you need. It can be once a week. It can be every 2 weeks. You can start once a week and taper yourself down to more of a maintenance type appointment. Very, very customized. That's only offered in those two states because of, credentialing and licensing and all that stuff for our clinicians.
Okay.
And the other thing, which is like our bread and butter of our program, is called the Accelerated Treatment Program there. So on the left-hand side or right-hand side, depending on what
green I'm on.
Yeah. So what that is it's a 2-week program. It takes about 6 to 9 months of therapy and condenses it down into 2 weeks.
Wow.
So the analogy and kind of that I've heard that really stuck with me and kind of the why, right? Because it is intensive, right? It's a very accelerated treatment program. But one way that once I started working here that I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense to me at least, is if you break your arm, is a doctor going to put you in a cast once or twice a month for a year? Or is a doctor going to put you in a cast every single day for 2 weeks and then get you better and get you out the door, right?
Right.
So I think when you kind of think about it like that, it's the exact same approach as a broken bone to mental health care, And so when you come in person, we offer a bunch of different things, but we are considered an outpatient program. So we have an entire clinic, a whole floor dedicated to our space, but we actually have a guest house that's about just under a mile away. We shuttle people to and from the clinic and the guest house. A lot of people end up walking if they want to, but We have a guest house. They have their own private room, their own private
Nice.
bathroom, own private kitchenette, their little living room space. There is a common area too for all of the veterans on our floor that we reserve to hang out as well. And they come to Chicago. There's a bunch of different modalities. I'm sure it's in our website, but I can send you guys to all of our flyers and one pagers and all that stuff. But we have a bunch of different modalities, right? So we have like acupuncture, we have art therapy, we have mindfulness, we have emotion communication regulation skills, all of these different modalities. We have a chaplain, and he was in the special forces in the Army, and he's now a chaplain, which is very unique to our program.
Oh, wow.
Who focuses on moral injury and assists with anything spiritual that someone needs. All of that is available for our in-person option. And that program is kind of split up. And what that looks like, though, is from 7:30 to 8 a.m. in the morning until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. They're in our clinic and they're doing their work. But what is great about the in-person option is that these guys will come in and they'll fly in on Sunday and Monday morning. Everyone's kind of sitting there. They're so nervous. They're so uncomfortable because this potentially is the first time that any of these people have talked about their issues.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like staring at each other like, what?
What do I do? Yeah.
What do I do? And because they have all these evenings free, they can go out to the city and do whatever they want. They can hang out in the guest house, in the common area. They can go. We do provide food, right? So we provide their transportation, the coordination cost of it, the lodging, and that guest house, the food. We do provide 3 meals a day. But a lot of people come to Chicago and they're like, I want to go get some deep dish pizza. I want to go get a hot dog.
Oh, yeah. You got to get some pizza. You got to get some.
And so they have the opportunity, though, to go do that after 4 p.m. every single weekday. And then on the weekends, they're free to go explore the city, to go hang out with their cohort members. And it's great. Yeah. It's such a...
That way they don't feel like a prisoner. They still have their freedom and they're getting treatment at the same time.
We don't take their phones. We truly are an outpatient program, and it does allow them the opportunity to kind of come into this bubble. We call it the little road home bubble. But they still have that, lifeline to their back home life. But we do everything we can to make our clinic as cozy and nice and warm and welcoming as possible. The design of our clinic is so intentional. It's not a sterile white wall space. Yeah. It's very warm and welcoming, just very intentional. And so that's what our in-person option is. How that looks throughout the year, because I do feel like this is important, is we rotate between 2 different, what we call cohorts, 2 different groups. Each cohort is 2 week long, and one of them is our combat cohort, and then one of them is our military sexual trauma cohort. So we're, one of the very few programs that
is unique. Yeah.
That has they have an entire group dedicated just for MST, because unfortunately it does happen, right? So throughout the year, we're flip-flopping between those. So we'll have 2 weeks of combat, 2 weeks of MST, 2 weeks of combat, 2 weeks of MST, and we do that throughout the whole year.
I love it.
In 2024, it was the first time. Yeah, these are all the services. That's, I think, for outpatient services, if I'm not correct, and then in person down there. But for the in-person, that's what we rotate between a year round. We do in 2025, we're having 2 what we're calling specialty cohorts. Okay. So one of them's in June. It's a family cohort. So we allow family members to fly out to do their own 2-week treatment by themselves for their own whatever they need. And then it's really cool. And then in June, when that's in July. In June is when Chicago celebrates Pride Month. So we created a LGBTQIA Pride cohort is what we're calling it. So if anyone self-identifies within that community, we felt, we have people from that community in our program all the time, but we wanted to create a space for them if that would make them, if that appeals more to them. And so this is the first time that we're doing that. And so we're really excited about that. And it'll, again, be during Pride Month in Chicago. And Chicago goes hard for Pride Month if you've ever been or know about it. It's a really fun time. So that's our 2 specialty cohorts.
And I love it. And you do couples counseling. So
that's for our outpatient as well. So that is just for those Illinois and Indiana residents only.
Okay.
But everything else I just talked about is for that accelerated treatment program. That is also true, what I just said, for the virtual treatment. And so what that looks like, so if they haven't been in direct combat or on a deployment, but they, have other things, a training accident, they've had other entities or circumstances that have existed within their military career or their lives, right? Like some of us have childhood trauma, but we served in the Army or the military, and we want to work on those things.
And it made it worse. It could have made it worse.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can go get help through our virtual program if that is something that appeals to you more. And our virtual program also, what makes that really special is that is what is available for all of our family members. So if you are a family member, and we let that term be really, really loose, we we don't need it to be your spouse. We don't need it to be your direct, dependent. It can be your neighbor that's been your neighbor for 20 years. It's raised
community
support. Right? Yeah. You consider your family. If they are associated with a veteran, they can come to our program through that virtual option. And what they'll get is that accelerated treatment program consists of 10 sessions with a individual or 10 individual therapy sessions with their own clinician. So it's completely separate from their veteran. They just have to have that association. I also think it's important to say that family member, their trauma that they want to get help with does not need to be related or connected to their veteran or that veteran's military service. So if a partner has been through a really traumatic experience, right? They've been through their own traumatic birth, if they've been, again, through their own childhood trauma, they can go get help through our virtual program and get all of those sessions one-on-one with the clinician, which is just great. So that's kind of a nutshell of what we do. I think I saw it on there. Our website's full of all of our data and stuff, but on the homepage,
it's a good looking website.
All of these options, that if you scroll to the top, that Get Care button for people who are looking on the video side of it, it's called Get Care. If you fill that out, we are completely self-referral. So you don't have to have a diagnosis to come. You don't have to have a letter from your therapist, from a primary care provider, nothing. You don't have to have anything. If you are a veteran, you served one day in the military as well. That's kind of a difference that sets us apart from the VA.
Other programs,
other programs, regardless of your discharge status. So if you have anything other than honorable, you can still apply for our program.
Really? Now that is rare. Wow.
That is rare. Because unfortunately, people have DUIs. People have, they've used a substance, and
it contributes to their behavior. It contributes, and it's a lot of it. Sometimes it's not their fault.
And so a lot of those people are not able to get help because of that discharge status. We can still help them. So all you have to do is literally go onto this website, fill out your name, your contact information. I think it's like your preference of how you want to get contacted. And within 48 to 72 hours, someone from our intake team, we have an entire team dedicated to just this, will contact you within 48 to 72 business hours. And then that will start your process. And we will do an intake with you.
That's awesome.
We will do, the intake process is, I don't want to say it's like so intense, right? But it's also like very intentional. So when we do that, our intake team is going to kind of ask questions to see what part, one, I guess, is our program a good fit for you? Let's be honest, right? If our program's not a good fit for you, do we know something within your community that would be better for you? Do we know another organization that we think would fit better for you?
Yeah. Is there a waiting list or? Oh, sorry, I mean.
Yeah, no. So there isn't. I think wait list maybe is the wrong term.
Or not wait list, but I don't know.
But a waiting period.
Waiting period.
So from, again, that 48 to 72 hours, someone will contact you. Once you do that, you will start scheduling those intake sessions. Through those, then if, we're like, Road Home is a good fit for you, where within our program is a good fit for you? Are you a family member? Okay, virtual option or that one specialty cohort in the summertime. Are you, if you are an MST survivor, we want you to be in an MST cohort versus a combat cohort, right? We're going to slot you with a clinician that we think is a better fit for you, and so on and so forth. So through that, right, that's happening. From the moment, though, that you click Get Care on that button to our in-person, you're looking anywhere between like 2.5 to 3 months wait. And that depends on your schedule. That depends on how quickly you get through those intake questions and like sessions with our team. But
this is wonderful. Wow.
In general, it's 2.5 to 3 months.
When they do the first intake and then they're waiting that 2.5 to 3 months, is there counseling in the middle there?
We can.
They're coming to you for a reason.
Yeah, we can do that. So if that is something that is kind of like a red flag that's popping off, like, oh my gosh, we think that this person might need help. If they're able, we might put them in our outpatient program in the meantime. If not, for virtual, yep. But if not, we're very networked. We have a pretty decent spider web within the communities. We also, our biggest donor is Wounded Warrior Project. So our Road Home program. So if there's Wounded Warrior Project, there's one of their biggest entities is called Warrior Care Network. The Road Home program is one of 4 of those.
Okay.
So we will connect them, through all 4 of our academic medical centers. We will able to find a resource somewhere to get that person help if that 2-month or 3-month wait is too long. Now, that intake process isn't just a one-day thing. So, really there may be only it's going to be like you click care. Okay, maybe a week later you have your first intake appointment. Okay, then maybe a week later you have your next intake, and then the week later you have your final one. Okay, we got your start date. Now from your start date, in between then and there, it's all of the logistics of the travel, of the coordination and payment of that, to get you to Chicago, and then you're planning with your at-home life to make sure you can get to that. So it's not just like they click get care and then it's cold turkey and then all of a sudden they're here. It is like throughout that time, we are communicating to that person. And if they need a little bit more help and a little bit more resources, we will make sure that we do either something internal or a warm handoff in the interim before they're at our program.
Okay. So what are some of your statistics? Like, what is the...
Yeah.
I went through your program, but it didn't help me. So how many do you find that
our program doesn't work for?
Yeah.
So there's so much data. I could talk about it for
I know there's probably tons and tons. But just on average, like how many people are going through the program versus the success rate?
So because we are an accelerated treatment program, our dropout rate is significantly lower than the typical, right? Because again, think about how if you're doing it once a month for 12 months, right? You're getting that 10 to 12 sessions in that time. Oh, something comes up on the one day that you had it scheduled. Oh, shoot. Okay, now we have to pivot another month later. Because ours is so condensed down, I think our completion rate is like a 95%. And the people that are dropping out, it's very rarely for any other reason than like a health or a family emergency or things like that. Because again, by the time they're coming here, they're ready to do the work. They're ready to be there. It's so difficult and it's so intense, but they're there and they're doing it. I think another important statistic that's one of my favorites is I think it's like 98% of veterans through our entire catalog of data and research would recommend our program to another veteran. Which
the word of mouth, yeah.
That exactly right. It's like you can look at the stats of the treatments and all these things, and it's like, well, and that exists on our website, our research. We have an entire team of just research dedicated to constantly improving and not staying stagnant in what we're doing, right? I think it was like 8 years ago or something. The old model was a 3-week program that we had. And because of COVID, we had to kind of pivot, and we realized that, okay, we're going to try to condense it because we can't keep people here that long. In our 2-week model, what we realized is we were seeing the exact same results. Okay, great. Let's change it to a 2-week program so we can get more people in here throughout the year, right? So it's things like that is that we're never settling. Like we are always trying to do something that works best. But to have a veteran recommend it to a friend is like, what better statistic could you ask for, right? Like,
no, I agree.
That is what matters.
So
how many
go ahead,
Laura, coming through your program every year?
And actually I'm
going to say just the 2-week program because you have so many different ones, but
I just looked this up, so I made sure I had some data for you guys. In 2024, we had over 1,200 people through the program.
Oh, wow.
Incredible. How many in each cohort?
Great question. So that has also pivoted, right? We've expanded slowly but surely. Right now, it's 18 per cohort. So 18 combat, flip it, 18 MST. And what that looks like too, because we want to make the biggest impact that we possibly can as well, is our clinic is actually a mirror image of each other. So we take those 18 people and we split them up even further into their combat experiences and things that they've experienced, that these 9 people, maybe they haven't gone through the exact same thing, but they've gone through almost the exact same thing. And so while they're in these group sessions with these 9 people, they're able to relate to these, all these experiences. And then these 9 people have gone through a combat experience, but it's different than this side's, right? And so we're pairing them as much as we possibly can so that that camaraderie can really get built and has a lot of depth within each side, and then within each cohort in general. So
I love it. Now, I do have a quick question. The podcast right before yours, I interviewed a gentleman who was recently exonerated. He was in prison wrongfully for 40-something years. How would you reach out to someone like that? He's seeing a psychiatrist now. He's healing slowly, but would you accept someone who's recently been incarcerated, especially if they were wrongfully accused and the DNA just exonerated him?
yeah,
Would
so
he qualify for this?
it's not a disqualifying factor. I guess
Okay.
I will put it that way, right? So same when it comes to our intake team, will kind of work through that and ask those questions. So if they're filling out paperwork and that's like something that we need to talk about, I will say it's the same thing for someone that has a dishonorable discharge. Why was there a dishonorable discharge? Okay. If it's something like, you're a really bad person and you are still a really bad person and X, Y, or Z and that side of it. Okay, maybe this isn't the best fit for you. Maybe we can't handle this. Or maybe we have you participate in the virtual option versus the in-person option. If we feel like you're going to potentially be a risk to someone else in the program, can we still help you, but do it virtually? And so I think the biggest thing is, 1, no, that's not a disqualifying factor. 2, what is the safest, best way to handle those situations, right? Because there are some exclusionary criteria within our program. With that being said, 96% of people get accepted into our program, and that 4% of people, it's a not now, it's a later situation.
Right.
So that's a little bit into the weeds of it, right? But the baseline of our exclusionary criteria is the reason that stuff exists is that when people are in our program and getting the help that they need, that factor isn't interrupting their care. So substance abuse. We don't drug test at our program, even for the in-person option. But we ask that your substance use isn't being abused and it's under control so that when you're at our program, your treatment isn't being impacted.
Yeah.
Because we don't drug test, you're an adult, right? It's legal to smoke marijuana in Illinois. But if we see that it's impacting your treatment, then we'll have a conversation with you, right? And we can create pathways that if someone does struggle with a substance, we're not a substance clinic, but if we notice that someone struggles with that, how can we, customize their care plan to make sure that we're working on that part of their lives and that part of their struggles. So I think it would be the exact same for someone who, was wrongfully incarcerated. How can we support them? Can we do it? Okay, let's figure that out. And then how can we best do that for that individual?
And not only that, the VA, I know they're doing research, a lot of that's, I'm not quoting medicine, but they're microdosing mushrooms now to treat PTSD symptoms and all this stuff, THC and all that. So that's great that you're open because there is a large veteran population in prison, whether it's because of TBIs or being wrongfully accused or whatever. But I think it does play a role.
Yeah, and we're currently to that point, I guess. But we're currently working with the Cook County is where we're located, the Cook County Juvenile Detention Center. We go there once a month to talk to that group of people, whoever wants to come to our little meetings where we talk about the Road Home program, so that when they are at a point where they can come to our program, then they know about us and they can come get that help.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I've never heard of an organization being so you have limited restrictions. You're so open to everyone.
100%. I mean, right? Like we do pre and post 9/11, regardless of discharge status. There's such few exclusionary criteria that once I got this job, I was like, okay, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. I work here. What's the catch? What's the too good to be true reality of the situation? And they looked at me and they were like, that's it. Like it is just that good. And I don't even know if I said this, my gosh, at the end of it, but I'm one of 4 outreach coordinators. So what we do, there's 4 of us, and then a senior outreach coordinator. We're responsible for going into the communities within the entire country, just the 4 of us, to go reach as many entities and communities and pockets of people that we possibly can to spread the word, because this program is so good. And do we wish maybe our wait time wasn't 2.5 to 3 months long? Yeah. Are we working our way to try and get that wait time even down? Yes. But also, is that pretty good for the standard that is mental health care right now? Right? Yeah, it's good, but we want to strive to get that better. But that's what my part of this puzzle is, to go out into communities, and I'm working really hard to go back to active duty. I would just fought really hard to go back to Fort Bragg to tell all my old soldiers, through that deployment that I went on with them, that, hey, I think you should maybe check this out. If you don't want to do it now, I get it. But at some point, keep myself and these 3 words, Road Home program, in the back of your mind, that when you know that all of a sudden you're at your point, whatever that looks like for you, you can go back. And we've done some outreach with the Special Forces community, because they have to sign an ROI. That's another really appealing part of this for active duty, is that we encourage people to tell their commanders and their chain of command that they're coming to this program. It's not a requirement though, and they can come on their leave. They can do these things and it really appeals to that side of the community where they're like, I have gone through these things. I want to get help, but I don't want it to be on my record. Okay, great. Come to our program. We'll get you the help. You'll leave with every single piece of documentation that you could possibly need to keep in your pockets, that, especially for this Special Forces community, when they're out in 20 years and they're trying to backlog all of the broken bones and the mental health things, they have this paperwork already ready for them.
So you don't report directly to the VA what they're anything.
They have to.
And that would be a concern of many, because, you guys know, veterans don't always want to go through the VA.
No, they don't. Yeah, they've heard stories.
We work with the VAs and vet centers across the country, because a lot of times clinicians will be like, you know what? We can help you to a certain extent, but we think that this program would be a great fit for you. And so we do work with vet centers and VAs across the country, but at the end of the day, what we offer is just different. It's just different than what they have. And so we will not release any information until the veteran service member or family member allows and signs that release of information to give us permission to do that. So
a lot of people are in fear of their career. It's being, there's still a stigma on mental health, and I'm like,
there is.
I think everyone needs a counselor. I have one.
I'm thinking I need to sign up myself. Like, can I use Dale as my person?
I was gonna say that.
My family's gone, so it's like, I work with veterans every day, so
it's true. And I think we, especially for active duty, right? It's not a career ender; it's a career extender, right? Like, does having mental health kick you out of the military? No, but does compounded mental health that spirals and spirals and spirals until you hit a breaking point? Could that potentially, have a negative effect on your career? Yeah. So why don't we nip it in the bud? Right? Treat it, get you better, and we use such intense evidence-based treatment. We use CBT and unified protocol at the Road Home program.
Oh, I've had CBT. That's great. I love
the point of us, especially when you put it in that 2-week format. It's to get you in the door. It's to fix you and give you the tools necessary to go handle what you've been through, and have the tools to deal with what life is going to throw you next, because no one can control that. And then get you out the door to go live your life, right? Like, we're not here to keep you in a constant maintenance level of therapy. If you need that, great. But that's not necessarily our goal with the evidence-based treatment that we use. We want to get you in,
get you well,
catch you up, get you well, and then get you back out the door so you can live your life, whatever that looks like,
Yes, I love it. And I could tell you're so passionate about what you're doing, which is really rare to see. Besides you, Lori. You're both. I mean,
it's so good to be true. And regardless on, if you were in for 4 years or you were in for an entire career, what we also tell people, because some people are so hesitant to seek that help, we put it in like if you don't need it right now, you might know someone that does. If you don't need it right now, maybe in 5 years you will, because you just don't know what your life is
going to be like.
And even for our program, we've had people come once and we've had people return, because life has just really dealt them the cards that they've gotten, and they've come back. And so I am so passionate about it. I think that regardless on the fact that my career was 4 years, it's 4 years in the 82nd Airborne Division, which can be intense. And
that's awesome.
Congratulations on that.
Yes. And thank you for your service. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think sometimes I can get I can belittle my own career sometimes. And it's like, well, no, I still networked. I still met all these people. I influenced people's lives. They influenced mine. And we all went through something really aggressively traumatic through that deployment. And even if people didn't do it, you know, being in the military in a lot of cases can take a toll on your mental health. And so it's like, why not? And if that is, you know, I think to kind of circle back to how we started this conversation and how I got this job, right? I know so many of my mentors that got out that I was asking advice for. This job wasn't their first job post-service, right? I'm so lucky that I have fallen into a community that is something that opens their arms to me, like with my military service, and who gets me. It's that sense of camaraderie within my own workforce that so many people don't have right when they get out. And so
no support.
There's no support. They feel so lost. They you know, even if they don't leave that military community, but they're not in the military, they still have this corporate job. It's like, how do I find my value and my purpose? And so I feel like it has been, that transition in my life has been pretty seamless in the sense of they are two very, very different jobs, and my responsibilities are very, very different between what I was doing as a medical service corps officer and what I'm doing now as an outreach coordinator. But at the baseline of it, I'm there as the bridge to get people help. That's all it is, right? Whether that was one of my soldiers in my infantry battalion needing to go get a doctor's appointment, okay, come to me and I'll help you. Whether that's a veteran that's never seeked mental health care in their entire lives, that hear my story, or one of my coworkers, or just read about our program, okay, come, let me help you, and I'll get you to the clinician that you need to go to. And so that aspect of it, I just feel so like on fire that is how lucky I am. And so it's like, I cannot take this job for granted. I will never take this job for granted, whether I'm here for 2 years, 10 years, no matter what it is. I just feel so lucky to be able to go out and get people the help that they need. So,
and you're helping it, and you're doing it. You're definitely doing it. This has just been such amazing interview. I mean, I want to definitely interview you again.
Yeah, I would love
you have
to.
such. I mean, this program is wonderful. We're definitely going to put this out on social media.
Yeah.
Is there anything? We're coming to the end of the interview. Is there anything you would like to share with any veterans that are watching right now? Just something that's on your heart.
Yeah, I think it just, I kind of sprinkled it in throughout it, right? But like, whether you need it now or you need it in a couple of years from now, or you are listening to this and you're like, I know someone right now that would benefit from that program, just keep us in the back of your head. That is how we're able to do what we do, is by spreading the word. And so, mental health, I think the stereotype and the taboo-ness of it is decreasing, but it does still exist. And so I think it's just a matter of understanding that you're literally not alone in that. Like, you're not alone in your struggles, and people can be shocked by their shared experiences sometimes. I think that they don't realize their shared experiences, and this program is designed to get you better. So I think that is what it would be, to just keep this program in the back of your head and share it with people, so that at the end of the day, we can just get people the help that they need. And it's okay to need the help.
Yes. And one final thought too, as far as donations. I know you're a nonprofit. You're probably a 501c, so you depend on donations. And I do see some links on your website here. So if anyone's interested in supporting the cause here of the Road Home program, they can. Let's see. I think is there a donation button here, or would they just call
on the tab? But if they're interested in it, they can also shoot a message, and we can connect them to the philanthropy team who helps us kind of bridge that gap.
Okay, and we can follow you on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram.
Definitely keep an eye on the social media, because we're with the outreach team, we're constantly traveling. So like just yesterday I was in Milwaukee. Later this year, me and one of my coworkers are going to Pennsylvania. Another two of us are going to Arizona. We've been to Hawaii. We've been all over. We just went to Hawaii a couple months ago.
You missed Colorado, because that's where Dale
we just went to
are.
Colorado.
I know, right?
We were just in Colorado.
You didn't call us. I know.
If we come back, which I'm hoping we will come back to Colorado,
yes,
I will reach out and let you guys know for sure.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Thank you so much,
Of
Katia.
course.
And did I pronounce it right, or did
You
I?
did. It's Katia.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Yay, Katia. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're
course.
busy. Lori and I really appreciate this. We're definitely
thanks
going to
for
have you back on the show. It's just, feel free to reach out with any questions, but this has
Yeah.
been great. If
Thank you
anyone's
so
reaching out,
much.
you're welcome. Anyone that's listening, this is Changing Lives, the Road Home program for veterans. No one is disqualified. Definitely reach out, go to their website so they can help you with whatever you're battling. I'm sure they can definitely give you the resources that's needed. So thank you again. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
you. You take care. Thank you. See if this is